Count my blessings. A subscriber on the channel, longtime subscriber, asked a question. I may have missed it in an earlier video, but I want to know if you read any books that helped you on your retirement path to early retirement. I've read a few books on my list, but was curious to know what helped or inspired your journey. Thanks. When people ask me how I learned to retire early, most expect me to say spreadsheets, investment apps, or a great 401k match. But honestly, the real foundation, financial software, it was books. These 5 books taught me how not just to manage money, but how to manage myself, my emotions, and my relationships. They gave me financial and emotional literacy I needed to walk away from work at 51, confident, prepared, and at peace. So in today's video, I'll share the 5 books that shaped my retirement journey, what each one taught me, and how you can apply their lessons to build your own path to freedom. These aren't financial books. They're life books, because early retirement isn't only about math. It's about mindset, meaning, and people. Book 1, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. This one's a classic. It's all about taking responsibility for your life and living with intention. Covey breaks life into 7 habits that help you put things from being reactive to productive, and 2 ideas that he had hit me hard. Begin with the end in mind and put first things first. For me, that means picturing the life that I wanted in retirement long before I got there and aligning my daily choices to that vision. It wasn't about escaping work. It was about designing freedom. And lastly, this book inspired me to create a personal mission statement, which for those of you that have been rocking with me for a while knows, it's to uplift the human condition in any way possible. And this helps with one of the biggest challenges retirees have universally, which is finding purpose. So if you're serious about early retirement, start here. It helps you get clear on your purpose, because saving money without knowing why you're doing it never lasts. Book number 2, The 9 Steps to Financial Freedom by Suze Orman. This book brought the emotional side of money to life for me. Suze talks about how our beliefs about money are fear, shame, and guilt, often from our past. Before I could manage my finances well, I had to confront what money meant to me. I realized that financial freedom wasn't about having enough. It was about feeling secure to let go, or at least feeling secure enough to let go. Her 9 steps walk you through everything from debt and investing to generosity and purpose. For me, it connected dollars to peace of mind. If you've ever felt anxious about money, even when you're doing well, this book helps you break that emotional grip and see that money is a tool, not a test. Book number 3, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Now, this one may not seem like a retirement book, but it's one of the most important ones I've ever. Early retirement isn't just a financial transition, it's a social one. You go from daily interactions at work to a whole new rhythm of relationships. Carnegie's book reminded me how valuable empathy, kindness, and listening truly are. These skills not only help me lead teams during my career, but also build meaningful connections after I retired. The truth is, people who know how to connect and communicate tend to do better financially and emotionally. And when you retire, those relationships become your new dividends, the ones that pay back joy, not just interest. Book number 4, The 17 Indisputable Laws of Teamwork by John Maxwell. Even though retirement can feel like a solo journey, no one gets there alone. The book by Maxwell taught me how to build the right support system at work, in life, and later in retirement. He talks about principles like the law of the niche, that every person has a unique role, and the law of the chain, that your team is only as strong as its weakest link. In my career as an HR executive, these laws shaped how I led people, but they also helped me choose how to keep close, or who to keep close, after I retired. Retirement goes best when you've built your team, family, friends, and community. Who encourages growth and who drains it. And book number 5, Prior Convictions and Other Life Sentences by Richard Pryor. Now, this surprises most people, because Richard Pryor's autobiography isn't about money. It's about truth, pain, and reinvention. And you always hear me say, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Sabado. His story taught me that you can't run from your past, but you can transform it into your wisdom. So all of us that ruminate about things that have happened in the past and think that we can't because of what happened, you just reinvent that and you turn that moment of weakness into a beacon of power. And Pryor in his autobiography and through his comedy lived openly, his flaws and all, and found healing through honesty. And that hit home for me as I approached retirement. Letting go of an identity built around a career takes real emotional courage. You have to make peace with who you've been and step into who you're becoming. Let me say that again. You have to make peace with who you've been and step into who you're becoming. So let me give you an example. When I was working, I was a really hard charging individual. I like to get things done. And if you got in my way, I was going to move you out of the way so I can move somebody else so that could get it done because my job had a big influence over a lot of people and their ability to get paid, to have health care for their families, and just to have an emotional well being to feel good about the life that they were leading. And I didn't have time for people that were going to disrupt that for the thousands and thousands of people that I was responsible for. The problem is in my social connections, a lot of times my social connections faltered because I was that same way when I was with people outside of work because who you are is who you are. And there's some people that say you could turn on, there's some that you could say you could turn off. But again, if you've been rocking with me for a while, I just keep it real. I can't be somebody different to different people. I am who I am. What I am is what I am. And when I retired, I realized that there were some relationships that I had charred and burned out on my personal side that just didn't work out anymore. For a period of time, I felt bad about that because I knew that there was something different and that being retired, I'd have more time and more patience to deal and foster some of these relationships. But the reality is it's not just about me. And I could have either A, continued to stay there and try to build back and pull people back in and pull these relationships back together, or I could just move on. And like A Tribe Called Quest said, I keep it moving, yeah, to the KIM. I ain't got no time for shucking and jiving. And then just really embracing and stepping into who I was becoming. And so who I am today is a Sabado that's way easier to deal with than the Sabado when I was working. And yeah, is that a little more open than I should be on a YouTube channel? Perhaps. But unless we're honest with ourselves, you can't be honest with anybody else. And so that's why I say I always keep it real because I think it's important for you not to go on a YouTube channel and air all your dirty laundry, but to be honest with yourself so that way you know what it is that you need to change and giving yourself that grace and being gentle on yourself and moving forward with that. So for anyone heading into retirement, especially early retirement, where you're going to stand out amongst your peer group, this book will remind you to face your story, own it, and keep rewriting it. Face it, own it, and keep rewriting it. When my father had a stroke, we were talking at his bedside. He was in a rehab hospital. We were talking, and I went to go visit him, and he asked me a question. He says, "Did you eat breakfast today?" And I said, "No, I didn't eat breakfast." He says, "Why didn't you eat breakfast?" I said, "Because I've never eaten breakfast. I never ate breakfast up to this point." He says, "Just because you've never done it before doesn't mean you can't start now." How true is that for a bunch of parts of our lives? And let me know in the comments what you think, because that statement really changed how I looked at all of my past failures and moving forward. And when I read this book just highlighted that and reminded me of that conversation that we had, because it forced me to think about just because it's always been that way it doesn't mean that it needs to be. So we have to continue to move forward. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backward because change is a constant. Here's what ties it all together, all of these books together, and it's the idea of emotional literacy. Financial freedom is useless without emotional freedom. You have to have the money to retire, but if you don't understand yourself, your relationships, or your triggers, you'll just carry your old stress into your new life. These books help me develop clarity, confidence, and the compassion to retire, not just comfortably, but consciously. So if you're dreaming about early retirement, start with your bookshelf. You'll find that the wisdom to retire isn't just about saving, it's about growing as a person. And I'll link all these books in the description. And I'd love to know which one of these do you think you're going to start with? Or do you have a book that shaped your own journey or your own life's philosophy? I'm continuing to read right now. I'm reading about the life of the Buddha. I'm reading a lot of Marcus Aurelius, who's one of the Stoics, and really adds perspective to life. And I'm reading some Langston Hughes. That's the book Simple. I had the benefit when I was on my road trip. We went to Powell's bookstore, and it's just this huge bookstore with a bunch of used books, and it was great because it was a brick and mortar bookstore. So I was in there for hours just reading and looking at things. But what is it that you're reading about, and what are you doing as building your philosophy? Even if it's not a page, a paperback book, if it's a book on tape, let me know because I think for myself and for others in the community, we could all benefit from that because we certainly had a subscriber that asked that question, and I'm sure there's a lot of the rest of us out there that are asking that question. And let's get that conversation going in the comments. And I love the comments. I read all the comments, and I try to respond to almost every comment. If you ask me, I always tell people that if you ask me a question, I'm always going to give you an honest answer. If I care enough about you to answer the question, I'm always going to give you the truth. And I care about each of you because we're fan. You guys have been rocking with me for a while. I'm rocking with you. I've had a couple of subscribers that have reached out and want to have conversations. If that's something you want to do, just to gain some perspective. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't play one on TV, but I'm here for you. I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm doing this because there's just not a lot of people out there having this type of conversation about this. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to sell you on a product. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. I'm just trying to give you some perspective so that way you live your best life. So, on that note, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with someone that's on their own path to freedom. I'm Sabado, the everyday retiree. And remember, it's not never my expectation that everybody retire early, but it is my expectation that you live your best life. So on that note, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.